President Trump loves to say peace through strength. That's actually a line he stole from Ronald Reagan. But let me tell you, after the spectacle that just took place in the Oval Office last week, Reagan must be rolling in his grave.
Sick. Ronald Reagan mentioned in a Democratic National Committee speech. Nailed it. The political environment has shifted drastically over the past year, with Democrats at a loss for their new direction, with Republicans trying to capitalize on theirs. On top of that, polarization as well as heavy political anxiety has made it nigh impossible to talk about strategy when it comes to things like 2026 and 2028. Almost every wild decision Donald Trump makes results in an instant freakout, with Democratic responses like that of Elise Slotkins failing to meet the mark to energize a base that is desperately looking for a leader to push them forward. And look, I get it. I agree in a lot of ways. It is absolutely valid to feel disappointed and despondent in this strategy, especially when a lot of people have not experienced prior election cycles after Democratic realignments or Republican realignments. Historically, every opposition party dooms themselves into new coalitions or starts advocating for a third party or starts buying a bunch of guns and saying, I'm ready for whatever happens, with I don't know, like French Revolution memes. And look, I am not here to knock you for how you feel about the state of things these days. The idea that corporate interests and lobbyists control everything holds a lot of weight these days. And to be honest, it did also back in 2010 when the Tea Party used it as a primary motivator for the midterm elections. But then again, they also said Obama was from Kenya and wore like tri-tip hats and shit. Like that's you know, it's fucking weird, guys. Now recently, less recently than that, this document went viral on the internet as a purported leak from a Democratic Party strategy summit on how to proceed forward for 2026 and 2028. And a quick glance of what this document found is like a who's who of what the fuck not to learn from the 2024 election. And the reaction to this document was filled with frustration and despondent anger. Because again, if Democratic strategists are buying into the same mistake over and over again, that means that we are cooked and we have lost everything. But here's the thing. No, senior Democratic strategists aren't all buying into this thing. And also, weird strategy documents like this have appeared in prior elections after people learn the absolute wrong lessons. And yes, in those elections, there have been dramatic shifts away from documents like that have rebuilt progressive coalitions and strategy. So let's take a break from fat bastard on Ozempic here and talk about the Democrats, the strategy summit that just occurred, strategy summits in the past, and what to do to push Democrats towards progressive ideas and less responses like this. But let's start with what this document actually is, all right? After the electoral shellacking in 2024, there's obviously been a lot of hemming and hawing by one specific wing of the Democratic Party. This wing that's been complaining the most is the more centrist wing of the party. It's pretty much the Clinton coalition, right? It's the same one that backed Bill Clinton, Al Gore, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton again, and then eventually Joe Biden. Now, here's something that's pretty important to understand, so listen up, all right? Political parties don't necessarily have a strict ideological like cabal that they just all adhere to, right? They're like record labels, right? That's pretty much what they are. The deal you're making as a candidate of a political party is the giant machine that it is going to handle all of the logistics and bullshit of running a campaign in exchange for you being at the front of it and driving it to victory because you have charisma and possibly a built-in audience. The party gets power and fundraising and candidates in positions to expand reach, and the candidates get to achieve something, or if you give a fuck, actually affect change. That means in general, yes, parties are stubborn and establishment by nature and very risk averse because they're giant fucking money funnels. But it also means that they will align their interest with whatever has the highest percentage of netting them victories if they need to pivot. Anybody who has worked in corporate America will tell you by experience that it's always, that's not how we do things here. No. Until it becomes, oh, actually, we're so open-minded. Let's embrace the future. And if you want my credentials, I worked at Apple. That's like another level of that shit over there. This outline around text, it's not very Apple, is it? Now, moving back, the document we have here is from a strategy session reported by Politico that took place at a resort in Loudoun County, Virginia, which, by the way, a very down-to-earth thing to have secret meetings at a resort in Virginia. Now, as Politico reports it, for the consultants at this session, frustrations boiled over at the left wing of their party. Democrats had become too obsessed with ideological purity tests and should push back against the far-left staffers and group that exert a disproportionate influence on policy and messaging. Very room where it happens kind of shady political operative shit, am I right? Now, this article got reported as a meeting of mostly senior Democratic officials who control the party, like the party's official stance on everything, and faced that intense backlash I was speaking of earlier. And understandably so. Look, like I said, if this document was the entire takeaway of what happened and the commitment from the Democratic Party to throw everybody under the bus for establishment politics forever, reasonably, you and I should be furious and not trust a word of it. But here's the thing. It's not. This retreat was actually from an organization called The Third Way, a political think tank. Now, most people who watch this show probably know what a think tank is. It's a bunch of smarmy assholes who try to push out political theories and ideas on how to advance their political affiliations' interests so they can feel like they're better than everybody else, or as I like to call it, Destiny's subreddit. Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Got him. I'm just kidding. Not about that asshole, though. But there are like a bazillion think tanks. There are so many think tanks, sometimes with elected officials, sometimes with strategists, activists. It varies. The Heritage Foundation, the founders of Project 2025, are a think tank. The Center for American Progress is a think tank. People's Policy Project is a think tank. Your Mom's Legs are a think tank. Oh, shit! Now, the Third Way is actually a pretty well-known think tank amongst Democratic circles. It was founded in 2005, and it morphed out of Americans for Gun Safety, which sought to try and shore up gun control laws. The AGS's North Star was to try to close the gun show loophole, and to that effect, they helped pass state ballot initiatives in Ohio and Colorado back in 2000. They had John McCain and Joe Lieberman as some of their allies for legislation in 2004, and they morphed into the Third Way to help with policy, messaging, and strategy for the 2004 election. How did that one go? The guys who lost the election with the most parallels to 2024 are telling us the strategy we should have for 2025. Great. But again, this think tank has been around for a while, and they are the establishment. When people talk about special interests and lobbyists, this is the Democratic side of that coin. It was founded by a guy who served in the Clinton administration, Jonathan Cohen. And so when people tell you that the blanket Democratic leadership or all mainline Democratic strategists came up with this doc, or if they make it seem that way, that is a lie. A lie the Third Way probably wants you to believe. Centrist leaderships like this hang their hat on what people call reversion to the mean. All these crazy fringe ideas are risky, and people will eventually be adults and move to our basic common sense traditional values. And so when it seems like messaging has already been put into place, and it seems like things are already moving and happening, these guys love to go, oh, no. Don't rock the boat. It'll be too risky. Do you want to risk everything? Do you want to destroy democracy? Which is why I'm pretty fucking sure this was leaked by somebody affiliated with the Third Way. All right? Establishment Dems may be stubborn, but they're not stupid. They're well aware of the pushback the party has been getting over the past few months because of ideas like this. But also look at what the response was. People freaking out, saying, this is what the Democratic Party wants. This is how the Democratic Party sees you.
We know for a fact that conservative old Democrats literally do shape the entire party. Like that's why it matters that they were the people who were there. Those are the people who are going to normalize that stance inside the party.
All of that conflation with the mainline Democratic Party as if that's already been decided is what these motherfuckers wanted. Because if you don't know, The Third Way is one of multiple think tanks who end up vying for the platform control as the party gets closer to an election cycle. The Center for American Progress, the Progressive Policy Institute, the Roosevelt Institute. You could start a think tank and with some work find a seat at the table. This is what I mean about the danger when people get baited into situations like this. There is a base that believes all of these things that the Third Way wants or is too afraid to rock the boat. And if they get an early lead and people step away from the table, other progressive think tanks can't shore up their capital. Well, actually, Zed, you're fucking naive, all right? The Democratic Party is a shill corporatist party who has always valued Clintonism and has never wavered in its design. They have never compromised. I would know this, for I have studied much practice and much breadtube, and I am subscribed to Madeline Pendleton's podcast. I am a tier 3 sub for Hassan. What tier are you? By the way, Zed, if you say that you're any tier, I'm gonna call you a fucking sellout. First off, that's a lot. Second off, get a screen name without 4 numbers at the end. Just, yeah. Thirdly, unless you move the goalpost of what a progressive candidate is to 100% of all successful priorities are enacted, no president has ever done that, by the way. The closest were Reagan and FDR, and they had to pare that shit back anyway. Unless you move the goalpost to that, there have been multiple times where the pendulum has swung back and fucking forth again. Because for some reason, as many parallels that occur with the Kerry election, people just want to pretend that the similarity between them is just a funny coincidence. Like the first person to die in a fucking Scream movie. Well, fuck it. Let's look at how all this shit played out in the past then, shall we? Post John Kerry's loss, instead of the Third Way, you had the Democratic Leadership Council, led by Al Frum. Al Frum was another super successful Clinton guy and had prominent roles in the 2000 and 2004 presidential elections. Obviously, very successful Democratic years. After 2004, Frum and the Democratic Leadership Council ultimately figured out what the issue was. It was just that traditional liberal policies just didn't work anymore for the median voter. They just hated it, right? Frum said they came off elitist and that they were out of touch with middle-class voters. And he said this is why Democrats lost in 1980 and in the early 90s, by the way. Al Frum has always blamed the left of the party like every fucking time. He also said that social issues that Democrats focused on and championed alienated conservative voters. So Democrats should just focus on more pro-business policies. He also said, and I'm not fucking kidding about this, Democrats should be more about national security and defense instead of weak-willed about the war. You know, the one that would eventually become the biggest foreign policy fuck-up in modern history. That war. Al Frum was a fan of all the greatest hits, like, hey, fuck social welfare. It's making people dependent. We should reform those things. Pretty much all of the centrist criticisms that everybody has about liberals and all that shit, double that by 2 in severity, and that would be Al Frum's position. During the 2008 primary, which Al, I'm sure, feels was not a very successful year with his fucking track record, he criticized the field for moving left and openly said that candidates like Hillary Clinton were the type America needed for the Democrats to be competitive, and that progressive social policies didn't jive well with the middle-class, real America voter. Well, hey, guess what fucking happened there, Al? Barack Obama was everything the Democratic Leadership Council and the Third Way wouldn't have wanted. Now listen, there was some overlap with the New Democrats idea that Al Frum championed earlier on, but Obama's stances on social and progressive issues were drastically different than the DLC's. Keep in mind that while Obama by today's standards would not be a leftist darling, in 2008, he was saying shit people had been screaming about for fucking years. It was a significant shift in the cultural zeitgeist of what a person could run on for president. He was one of the only Democratic figures who opposed the Iraq War at a time when Republicans labeled you as a traitor if you did so. He advocated for significant change and labeled America's problems as systemic. He criticized Wall Street and corporate power instead of the pro-business thing. In fact, he was seen as the anti-DLC candidate. They didn't fucking like him. He also supported renewable energy, workers' rights. He was more progressive than anybody else on same-sex marriage, during a time when they were trying to get a constitutional amendment to ban it, right? And he was also the closest thing to universal health care, even if he didn't outright support Medicare for all. And after Obama won the nomination over Clinton, an enormous upset with the amount of backing she had from establishment Democrats, he reformed the party under his umbrella and the grassroots machine that he built. He clashed a lot with Howard Dean, who was the head of the DNC at the time. And with that, the DLC lost all relevancy within the party after such a fumble, and Obama ended up winning in a landslide. Now, granted, Obama did become more centrist as an incumbent after certain other policyholders and think tanks told him it would be the best way to get legislation across. Look at that. Look who it is. Looky here. The third way during Obama's presidency advocated for some of the legislative priorities Obama wanted to do, but highlighted that a more centrist approach would have a stronger chance at getting these things passed. Now, hindsight is 2020. Obama is the most progressive president who has been in office up to this point. So his position shifts to defending the march of progress and being a pragmatic candidate rather than one of radical change. That pisses off a lot of progressives and might be similar to what you're seeing and feeling now over the last few years with the Democratic Party. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. The third way, from this specific wing of the party has always been there acting like the adults in the room, and they have now suffered one of the most public defeats imaginable. The only other political movement that suffered a punch from an electorate like that was the neocons in 2016 when Donald Trump took over their party. You have to understand, documents like this is how the 4D chess bullshit of politics works, all right? Oh, it's already happening. It's already happening. It's what the adults in the room want. You want Donald Trump to be president again? He's so much worse. Get in line. But guess what? It's fucking March, assholes. It's been 3 months. Nothing has been decided for these guys. No amount of, hey, Reagan wasn't so bad, huh, is gonna lock you in for the long haul. If you want to build a progressive coalition, then you have to build a progressive coalition. And that is not the same thing as criticizing centrism. Let me just say this real quick. For all the hemming and hawing about how we need more progressive or leftist policies, we don't have pragmatic advocates for why. Maybe to people who are politically engaged, like you or me, who fucking just breathe in this shit all the time. But for non-politically engaged people, it's always overwhelming. What the Obama campaign did so successfully is make these practical policies that the Republicans would try to make seem as radical and fringe and not idealistic seem attractive, possible, and the future. Like, this is possible. It's okay for you to say the Iraq War is fucking bonkers, because it is. It's okay to imagine a world where gas prices don't dictate everything. It's okay to not idolize Wall Street and to treat gay people like fucking people. That's normal. It is normal to feel that way. It's not that deep. And when people heard that, they were like, yeah, why the fuck am I overcommitting to freedom fries and all this bullshit? For the life of me, I cannot understand sometimes why people will say out of one side of their mouth, Kamala Harris offered nothing and just fear-mongered about Donald Trump, but then go into the comments section trying to advocate for progressive policies by saying, actually, guys, we're all cooked. Like, do you not see? Like, do we gotta do a fucking Venn diagram in this bitch? Aren't policies like a reformed healthcare system and better economic prospects for buying a house, a living wage, fucking a culture that is not dictated by podcasts? Doesn't that seem like a good fucking time? But then why the fuck don't we treat it like that? If it's a party, you don't invite people to a party by going, hey, by the way, if you're not going to Todd's at 8, everything you love is gonna die and you're gonna lose all your rights. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say you guys should just smile more and everything will be okay. I'm saying that just like everybody is telling Biden centrists you have to give people something to vote for, hey guys, you have to give people something to vote for. If people don't really understand why the things you're advocating for are attractive and you blame them for being too much of a fucking normie, you're the problem. You suck at this. I'm from Orange County. Orange fucking County, okay? I have flipped more than one, oh, I hate woke shit, blah, 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 person on trans rights and healthcare and all that shit, all right? And I see people unironically come to my page and go, you're not really about trans rights or fighting fascism or advocating against the climate crisis. Only I am when I tell people they're all gonna fucking die. If your idea of building a community is gatekeeping everything you don't like out of it instead of finding people who believe and like the same things as you do and bringing them all together, you're the fucking Tea Party, my dude. You're the neoconservatives. You're the third way. You're the neoliberals. I'm not worried about the third way and this stupid fucking document because I can sell my ideas better because they're not the same bullshit everybody's heard a million fucking times. If you're really about this cause, if you really want to see a more progressive Democratic party who actually does shit, or I'll even raise you one better. If you actually want to see a third party, I'll even bring you into this, all right? Fucking prove it. Do something about it. I can outwork anybody. Can you? Let's go. And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Another long fucking episode. And anyway, my name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go.